Good morning all. Bright and early in the morning, and right now I'm freezing to death. But it's supposed to be 90 this afternoon, so I don't think I'm going to regret not bringing a sweatshirt in when I'm hiking out. Today's project is to do some crevicing. Before we get up to where I'm planning on going, I thought, well, I'd stop, say good morning, and we'll take 5 minutes out. Okay, well, we're finally at the spot I'm planning on working today. And today, what I want to do is to answer a question I get a lot. And that's, why that crevice? You know, out of the 100 crevices in this area, why are you digging in this one? And so what I'm going to do today is try to run down the reasons that I pick particular crevices over other ones. And normally I thin them out with a metal detector, but today we got no detector, so we're doing it old school. So let me give you a rundown of the spot we're at, and then we'll go over some crevices. We'll pick one and just see how we do. This is the area we're interested in. Now I'll show you here. This is all bedrock. There's a lot of bedrock in here. This is all bedrock in here. Now in through here we have a channel. Now when you're working with a pan, you're not going to be able to work the amount of gravel in this area. So we're gonna concentrate on what's up on the sides of this area. Now, why this area? The creek is over here, and this is the inside of a slow bend in here. But what I look at more than that is the rocks. The general size of the rocks and the color of the rocks. Now you look at some of these rocks, like this one I'm standing on. This is, it has a shine to it. This rock, these are all real heavy rocks. They're a darker color, but they have a kind of a shine to them. They're polished because they're denser. So they can acquire a polish where you get one that's like granite that's not as heavy, won't polish up. All these rocks in this area are really heavy rocks. So that's a good indication, number one. Number two is the size of these rocks. Everything in here is large. It's not extremely large, like the rocks just to the outside here. Let me swing the camera around, I'll show you. Now we're out in the creek bed here, and you can see by looking at the rocks out here, they're much larger. The rocks between me and the camera are all this size. This is your main line right in through here. You can tell by the rocks how they line up. This is the main line of where during a flood the flow first diminishes. These rocks will drop out right on the edge. Now right over there you got too much flow. It's still going to move. So basically your largest gold is going to be right where I'm standing, but down at the bottom of the river. Now as I move in, you'll notice the rocks start getting smaller. Like the one I'm standing on here. It's still a large rock. These are all still large rocks. but they're nowhere near the size of that one. This is what's a secondary. This is the gravel we want to work in around this gravel, because this is where you get more of the gold. The smaller gold will start dropping out. As we move up the bank, it gets even smaller, and that's where your flood gold will start dropping out. Now what we're going to do now is up on this upper terrace right above us here, we have some nice looking cracks up there we want to take a look at. So let's head on up there. Okay, now I've moved the camera upstream, and now we're looking downstream at the same area. Now you can see we still have sizable boulders. Now this right here is a boulder. This is a huge boulder, and the boulders out there are all huge. This is the secondary boulders right in here. But you'll notice also over in this area we start developing our smaller rocks and gravel. So if we work out there, if we work out in here, yeah, we're going to find bigger gold. You know, if I was to dredge, I'd be dredging out here. But there's a lot more fine gold than there is larger gold. So when you're panning, you got to get into what you're capable of working. And so we want to get to where we have, you know, gravel in this size will carry the flood gold. You have to look at the creek. The only thing you can go by is where it's dropping the big boulders and where the bedrock is. So what we're looking at right now is this section in here. This is bedrock. We have a huge boulder right there. We have big gravel laid right in here, and we have smaller gravel over here. The area I'm going to concentrate looking at is in this smaller gravel area. That and this bedrock up in here. Now this right here is a pretty good sized rock. So you know there's still significant flow during the flood going through here. So all this gravel, you can see this gravel being pushed up the bank here. This area, all in here, is an area that I would look at to do a little crevicing. Okay, now we know we have a substantial flow going through here. We know there's a fairly substantial flow still right where I'm at, because there's a pretty big boulder right here. This area here, we can see where the gravel has been pushed up, and we got, you know, chunks of gravel up there the size of a football or bigger. So that means anywhere in this area, there's enough flow to carry some nice gold up here. Now what we want to look for is in this area, something to diminish that flow where gold can drop, and something for the gold to get stuck in, which is a crevice. Now, right here, we have a crevice, but it's running with the flow. So you have to have a pinch point. Right here it comes up and it closes together right here, and then we have gravel laying in here. This bedrock here allows the flow to diminish so that the gravel can lay in here. Now the question we got to answer is, does this crevice continue under this gravel? And if it does, then there's a good possibility there's gold here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up and pull some of this gravel out, and we'll see if that crack keeps moving up. Now when you start to clean an area, one thing you want to really pay attention to is where you throw your gravel. You don't want to toss it like right up there because we may be working up there. You want to make sure you're going to toss it in a spot you're not going to be working, so you only have to move it once. So we'll just pull everything off the top, and all this gravel is on the very surface. You can just pull all this stuff off and just toss it. There's no gold in it. Your gold's going to be down on the bedrock or close to it. So all this surface, we'll just clean it all off to where we can get down to the workable gravel. Now the one exception to that rule of pulling the gravel off top and just throwing it away, if this was packed in here really tight, then you want to work all the gravel because we're up high enough there could be flood gold in it. I mean, you have that really tight packed gravel. To get gravel packed tight, it's got to have a lot of flow and other gravel impacting it. Well, as the flood diminishes, that gravel then will act like bedrock, and it will allow the fine flood gold to drop down in it and get stuck. So if this was tightly packed, we'd be panning all the gravel. But this, since it's just loose, it's just gravel, so we're going to huck it. Okay, now we're not going to move clear too big of an area, because what we're mainly trying to find out right now is, does this crevice continue? If this bottom is smooth, then there'll be nothing here. Now it looks like our crevice continues on, but there's no packed gravel in here, which means one of two things: is it doesn't get enough flow, or somebody's worked it out before. And I'm sure it gets enough flow, so somebody may have cleaned this out within the last who knows how many years. But we'll dig on down and make sure we don't have packed gravel at the very bottom. Okay, we've gotten down to the bottom right here, and it's a nice little catch, but the bedrock is smooth, which means that this is boiling and it's working. So that's why we have no packed gravel, is it's too wide. It's not narrow enough for the gravel to get stuck in. So it's just working. So the odds are there's going to be little to no gold here. Now that we're up high enough, I may take a small sample out of the best portion of this and check it and see if we got any flood gold. So we'll do that, just get an idea of our setting here. Okay, now that I got this fairly clean, there is a small crevice running right along this edge and another one running along this edge. They're not very big, but they're plenty big enough to hold a nice piece of gold. So we'll clean both these out and check to see what's in here. Now when you're up working crevices up in the dry area like this, a tool that's really helpful is just any kind of a brush for sweeping them, and just a spoon that you can bend into where you can scoop it up and get it out of there. The advantage of the brush is it really gives you, once you clean it off, you can really see what the bedrock's doing, because if you don't get it totally clean, there could be a crack that's hidden that you'll never see. Okay, well, we got that cleaned out. We got half pan of gravel, so I'm going to run down, pan this out. I'll be right back. Got that first pan panned out, and we found gold. There's 5 little pieces in here, which the little tiny crack we had, that's actually pretty good. So I think we're going to work on up see if we can find any more catches on the way up there. So we're just going to pull all that top gravel off real quick and see if there's any kind of cracks moving on up, because we know that there is gold in here now. Well, let me show you what we found. Okay, you can see right here we got 4 little pieces of gold, and for that little tiny crack that we're looking at, that's not too terribly bad. Well, I'm going to go grab the snuffer bottle, pick these up, and then we're going to move this gravel. Now, one thing I wanted to show you here that you want to pay attention of is right here. I don't know if it shows it or not, but there's a crack running down. There's one there, and there's one here. Cracks that are running down towards this other crack. So these are spots you want to concentrate on, where if this crack continues across, it could be a nice little catch there. Same thing here. And then right up there is a large one coming down. So these are all spots you want to pay particular attention to while you're checking this out. Okay, let me go grab that snuffer bottle. Okay, now you can see I've got all this gravel pulled back to where all this bedrock is exposed. Now right here, the bedrock is starting to rise, but we still have our low point right here. So I've pulled off all this top stuff, but now what's left down in this lower section, this is what we want to go ahead and clean up and pan. But if you look up here, we have a crack running along here. You want to make sure to go along and dig all this out, like right up in here. We'll go ahead and break this free. And we want to get all this gravel out of this stuff up here. This nice sharp edges that could very well catch a piece of gold. Want to clean all that up first, drop it down onto our gravel. That makes it much easier to pick up. Okay, I'm going to give this a quick cleaning, and we'll see what we got after this. Okay, well, we got our second pan here. Now this is the stuff primarily off the top. There's a couple of crevices back here I cleaned up. The one right here, I don't know if it's showing it very well, but this is quite a little catch here. It looked pretty good to me. But the rest of it's pretty much stuff off the top. We have one spot here where we've got a rock stuck in here that looks really good. But I'll take this down, pan it out, and then I'll be right back. Okay, you can see here we got a hunk of lead, nice piece of gold, and a lot of real fine stuff. Well, we're still finding gold, so there's no reason why we shouldn't continue on. So let's keep working. Well, the sun just hit me. So that means it's going to start getting warm now. Okay, we're going to go ahead and clean this out. Yeah, I like the looks of this. This is starting to look better. Now, we've cleaned this crevice coming this way. Now, right here, it kind of pinches out to nothing. But we do have a crack here. So rather than clean this up to that point, you want to make a spot where you can pick your gravel up easily. So what we're going to do now is going to start cleaning downhill. That way we can pile the gravel right here where it's easy to pick it up and put it in the pan. So we'll work this down and we'll work this up, and we'll just keep piling it here till we get to the point to where then we'll clean the last of that. Okay, I got that all cleaned out, and took our third pan down and panned it out, and this is our best pan by far. We're still not finding anything large, but these are respectable pieces. And we're also picking up lead, which is a real good sign. So let me show you what we got out of there. Okay, you can see in here we got quite a few little lead BBs. Let me clean it up a little bit here, but you can see we got quite a bit of really nice gold in there. Okay, well, I got those pieces of gold picked up, and the good news is one of them wouldn't fit in the snuffer bottle. It was pretty flat, but it still wouldn't fit in the snuffer bottle. Okay, we pretty much have this crevice worked out. So using this information, you got to consider the size of the material, the size of the gold, and the lead. It gives you an indication that the flow right here isn't that strong. Otherwise, we'd be finding larger pieces of lead, some iron, stuff like that. So we want to move to where there's a little more flow. Hopefully we'll still be picking up pieces, but maybe larger pieces. So we know we don't want to go any lighter than this, because then we're going to be just picking up really, really tiny stuff. So what we're going to do now is we'll take this information, look at the gravel bar. We got a better idea what the flow is here. We'll give it a second look, knowing this information, and then we'll make a decision on our next spot to check out. Okay, we got us a crevice right here and a small one right here, and you can see we've moved down a little bit to where we have larger gravel. We knew before, where we were before, we had the smaller gravel and the gold was just a little too fine, a little too much flood gold. What we're after is a little heavier pieces. So now we've moved over into where we have heavier gravel. This is a boulder. These are all boulders. It's a lot heavier gravel. So we'll clean this one out and see if our theory works out. Now when you're working a crevice like this one, it's a deep crevice and the sun's out, it's dark down in there. So what I do is make sure you always have one tool in your bag that is shiny. Like the crevice tool here, you can take and use that to reflect the sunlight down into your hole, so you don't have to carry a flashlight around. And then the other thing I wanted to cover was, I always carry a chunk, or not always, but most time I carry a chunk of tubing. And I use this tubing both above and below the water. Like in here, I can shove this tubing down in here and blow in it to blow that material out. Now if you have a nugget down in there, it's probably not going to move the nugget, but it'll blow the material off of it so you can see it. And the same thing when you're underwater. If you're down in a deep crevice and you can't get to the bottom, you can use this, you can fill it full of water and blow it to blow the crevice clean, or you can suck the material up and dump it out in your pan or on the rocks and then fan it so you can get to the very bottom of the crevice. Okay, I'm almost to the bottom, so I'm going to keep digging. Okay, we got that crevice cleaned out, and I bet you I've been on that thing for an hour, and it's already past lunchtime. But the good news is we got some gold out of that crevice. So let me show you. Okay, now with the sun shining, I have a hard time with the camera, so I don't know if you can see this, but out of there we got some iron, we got quite a bit of lead. Okay, and this one right here you can see is a nice chunky piece. And actually all the pieces we got out of there are pretty chunky pieces. Okay, we got into that gravel, that heavier gravel, and we started finding heavier gold. Now the trade-off you're going to have to make is there's a lot more gold in a river that's fine than there is that's heavy. So if you get down real low close to the river, down in the big heavy gravel, you're going to find heavier gold, but you're not going to find as much. You get up on the edge, you get into the where you have the smaller gravel, then you can start picking up the flood gold, and you'll find a lot more of that. Now the problem is when it comes to weight. One heavy piece will make a lot of fine flakes. So that's just a trade-off you're going to have to decide, you want to make. But right now, it's getting really hot over here. So I'm going to pack everything up, head back over to the other side of the river, and I'm going to hike quite a ways upstream. There's a section I want to check out up there for a future video. Now, if I find something really cool up there, I'll turn the camera back on. But as of right now, I'll see you guys back at the house. Well, we made it back to the house, and that gold was pretty easy to clean up. So, what do you say we throw it on the scale and see how we did? Okay, let's see how we did. Well, it looks like we ended up with 1.97 grams. Or just about 1 1/4 pennyweight. Okay, let's get a close-up on this gold. That's some pretty gold. Well, I'm okay with 1 1/4 pennyweights. That's not too shabby for scratching in crevices for half a day. Now, I'm sure this video is already ridiculously long. So, all I'm going to say right now is if you're not already a subscriber, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you hit the little bell up in the corner, you'll also get notification whenever I post a video. Now, if you leave a comment, I read them all. I don't get the time to answer them all, but I read every one of them. And if there's something you guys want me to do a video on, if I know what the subject matter, I will put it on my list of videos to do. So right now, I'm going to quit talking and say you have a wonderful day.